Still
And
says
we
I'm in
need,
it. There we go.
yep,
All right.
awesome.
All right, here we go. Kelly, you just have to hit start.
Oh, I did. And it said recording in progress. Is it starting?
I don't see there, it says practice session. I think we're going.
Okay,
Cool.
all right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Shelley Coldiron, Executive Director of Wolf Sanctuary in Northern Colorado. And just a little update on our sanctuary. It's getting toasty. Why are things so hot? Dang it. So the animals are really loving their troughs. And hi, Jewel. I'm glad you joined us tonight. So they're enjoying their troughs, and we're putting up some social media posts about them enjoying their troughs, and they're trying to stay in the shade, and hopefully this will break. But everything's good at the sanctuary. They don't like the heat, like I don't like the heat, and we appreciate your support. And please follow us on social media so you can keep up to date on all of our critters and their lives that they have, and all the wonderful things that they do to enlighten our lives. So if you join us with the last webinar that we had the great pleasure of having Oliver join us then and talk about his experiences on wolf recovery and where we are today, and giving some perspectives about what's going on in Colorado, which is sad with what's going on in Colorado with wolf reintroduction. And we've had too many fatalities. This is really sad. So one thing that Oliver talked about when we were meeting last time with webinar was he was offering to help us use AI to be able to write impactful letters that are personalized by you to be able to send off to be your own advocate. And that's more important than when you get these emails and you just put in your name and address and phone number and send it off. And that's seen by many legislators as one letter with 60,000 signatures on one letter. So personalized letter, and Oliver will talk about this, has a bigger impact when they're seeing individuals are actually taking the time to voice their concerns and how they're advocating for a particular cause. So that's important. So I'm going to turn it over to Oliver. And he said, we're recording this, by the way. And so, if you're not able to keep up on the notes, but he's also going to offer that if you need any help, he'll give you his information to reach out to him, but he's going to be able to show you how you can write your own individualized advocacy letters to have an impact on a cause that is really close to your heart. All right. Thank you, Oliver.
Oh, thank you. And thanks again for making this possible. I'm excited to share with you guys how to use AI, artificial intelligence, to, this will not just help you with your advocacy, but it can make you more effective in almost any part of your life. I would say that AI today for us is functionally the equivalent of the pocket calculator. Before we had advanced calculators, decent calculators, doing advanced math was really challenging and limited to scientists and engineers. And decent calculators and then the personal computer made more advanced techniques available to almost anybody. And AI is the next generation of this. For those of you that are sci-fi fans, we are getting closer and closer to computer, and the computer talks back. In fact, some of these models do talk back to you. You can actually have conversations with them because they have voice enabled, and they understand almost everything you say. They understand almost everything you write. It is able to generate very sensible responses. So I want to give you kind of a very quick overview of what this stuff is, where to go to use it, what they can do, and how we can use it. And then at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to do a real world exercise together to generate a custom letter. Each of us who's so inclined can generate a custom letter and send it to voice our opinions about the downgrading and delisting of wolves nationwide. So first of all, everything that is currently called AI is really something called a large language model, or an LLM. You may have seen that acronym. And so we are not quite technologically at a place called general intelligence, where the AI sort of is aware of itself and it's almost its own living, breathing being. Although some scientists are somewhat afraid that we are actually approaching this with very few guardrails, which could potentially be very risky. And you will see as you interact with AI that it's smarter than you in many ways. It has access to vast amounts of information, and it thinks faster than humans. Our advantage, of course, is creativity, but AI is getting more creative. But right now, at least, and for hopefully the foreseeable future, we get to be in charge. And in tech, we sometimes call different versions of a similar kind of a tool a flavor. So there are a bunch of different versions of these LLMs. I spend most of my time using ChatGPT, but other LLMs are Google Gemini, and I'm going to share my screen now so people can see. And if you do have questions that are like really burning right then and there, if you post them in the chat, then Olivia is going to help me out and call them to my attention. But I am going to share my screen. Guys here, and I'm going to first just show you some of these LLMs, right? So this is my actual ChatGPT. Now, most of these, the basic, there's a basic program, and then there's programs that have more advanced features that are for subscription. So I subscribe to ChatGPT at like a little bit above a basic subscription. It's everything I need personally to do quite complex work. And so this is, almost all of them look almost exactly the same. So I'm going to drag this down a tiny bit. So you can see, for example, this is ChatGPT. There's one called Perplexity AI. You see there's just a Ask Me Anything. So just to give you an example, I'm teaching, and I'm not the fastest typer, a webinar about AI. Please introduce yourself to my guests. Let's just see what it does, right? Now, none of this is, I'm just playing with it so you can see. There you go. Hello, everyone. I'm Perplexity, an advanced assistant, all right? They're all very similar, right? Grok, they all do this, how many wolves are in North America? No, made me do it twice. Now, the interesting thing about this AI is that it sometimes hallucinates. It sometimes thinks it knows something because it doesn't have always an absolute source of truth. For example, when I ask it to write me a bio, it thinks that I ran the Yellowstone Wolf introduction, that I founded Mission Wolf. And what the reason it's doing that is because there's been a lot of articles written about me. Many of them have been wrong, or many of them have been cribbed from other articles. And so it reads all these articles and then it decides what it thinks is right. But in this case, you can see the answer is pretty close, right? And it's giving you, should be accurate links to help you out. And then you can click a link, obviously, and learn more, right? So then there's Google Gemini. You see it's all the same. Microsoft Copilot, and there's Manus, DeepSeek. There's many now, because these companies, this is the gold rush in tech right now, is building and differentiating your AI. So let's talk about what they can do, because it's, most people that are using AI are using it in a relatively unsophisticated way. And by that, I mean they're asking it questions or they're doing silly things with it, but they are not using it anywhere near its true capabilities. AI can do programming. It can do very complex math, engineering. Engineers are in real trouble. I'll give you an example personally. My wife and I run restaurants. I'm building a new restaurant. I had comments come back from a plan check for a permit, and it wanted the air movement calculations for my equipment and my exhaust. And by telling this, I'll just show you here. You can see I have a sidebar here with all the things I work on. And if I go here to exhaust hood for design, what I do is I tell it what I want it to be. And then I tell it to ask me questions to make sure it understands what I want. So you'll see here, I tell them, and there are things called personas. So you can create a persistent identity for certain tasks. So for example, I have an identity I call book. And when I tell it to be book, it's an editor, a very sophisticated book editor that is leveraging all of the best book editor skills in the world, essentially, to help me edit a book. And then I'll put in text and I'll say, use book to help me improve the text. And it will give me editorial comments. In this case, I told it, I'm working with it to do these plans. I say you're a restaurant engineering consultant, and I give it some parameters, and it says, here's a breakdown regarding my configuration, right? It's explaining everything that it's doing about how this is working. It's giving me a matrix of the different options, so you can see, and this is all based on complicated engineering math that previously I would have had to hire an engineering firm to do the calculations. And I still hire an engineering firm because I'm not 100% on this, but my experience as of today was that it was right because I met with the engineers and they were correct.
Oh, wow. Hey,
So-
Sandra, you might want, if you got a question, would you put it in chat? So we can ask Oliver?
So it's, and it can be very sophisticated. And then I have told it that I want confidence scores on its, you can tell it, for example, you can say, I need you to be highly skeptical of everything I'm doing. Because it sort of intends to be agreeable at first. So if you say something, it'll say, that's a great idea. But if you say, be skeptical, then it can say, here are the drawbacks to that idea. And so it has all of these capabilities. And they call what I did up here at the top prompt engineering, right? And basically, I am crafting instructions for the computer in natural language that's helping the computer understand what I want. And you can even do things like tell it to write a prompt for you or for another LLM. And there's even LLMs to generate images like Mid-Journey. This one has its own built-in that I pay for. And so the more, this advanced prompt engineering is now a field. Like I could go to work tomorrow for companies writing prompts for their people that would allow them to be more efficient. And those prompt engineering techniques can be creating very sophisticated personas like book, or I have one I call mycologist. I can upload a picture of a mushroom and I can ask it to tell me about the mushroom, leveraging everything the world's most famous mycologist, Paul Stamets, has ever put on the internet. And
Wow.
it will spit out, it's basically Paul Stamets in the computer. So it's, and I might even have an example of that. Now, here's one my friend sent me a picture.
Amazing.
My friend sent me this picture of an owl last night. Can you tell me what kind of owl this is? Right? So I just upload the picture and it has a persona for this, and it just identifies the owl and gives me a confidence. Right?
Wow.
These are just some of the things you can do. You can ask it to teach you stuff. You can ask it to explain how it figured something out. And of course, you can do simpler things like ask it to find information like we did with how many wolves are in North America. And so, as I said, you can be very, very clever with this to help you accomplish almost anything. I mean, you can say, I need a writing coach. And you can tell it what you want that writing coach to act like. And you can explain to it what you're doing so it knows what kind of writing coach to be. This is the same for any of these LLMs. They'll all do that. And if you tell it that you want that writing coach, you could say, I want you to be Claude, my new writing coach. And then you can talk to Claude, and Claude is your new writing coach. And then you can have Heinrich, your engineer. And so you can create identities that it will
Wow.
respond as that identity for the, and then you can do simple stuff. I was painting planners. I said, I need to paint a planner. Help me calculate the math. And it tells me how many gallons of stain I need.
Wow.
So
So here's a question. is what about like, in Colorado, we want to find out who of the legislators are in support of non-lethal management. Would that be able to
So
find?
that's a great question. Let's test it out. So. And this one doesn't really need a persona. And it doesn't really care about typos. Like you can have pretty bad typos and it still kind of understands. It's only when they're really, and the other thing you can do, which I'll show you here, is you can tell it to ask you questions until it's absolutely sure it understands a request. And sometimes it may throw back at you, how many feet is your hood? What elevation are you at? So it knows how to do the math or whatever. In the state that favor non-lethal management. Please, and then you need to tell it, like, this should be who favor. Please present the list and include their contact information so I can email or write. Okay, so let's see what it does. It's doing a search. You'll see it's created its own little chat, Wolf Reintroduction Legislation. It's thinking, it's showing you where it's going, and then it's giving you your list.
Wow.
Okay? And
wow.
So you can see how this just hours of work just went with one good question, right? How to engage, and then pros and cons. And now it's even already, it's incredible. It knows me, right? It already wrote you an email. And this will be different for every single user. It will never create the same email. And you could even tell it, to redraft the email. Like, okay, so see it knows me, right? So it's already saying, as the executive director of the Tall Wolf Center, right? So it has, because I've done all this work, it has all this knowledge about who I am and what I'm doing. And let's refine the letter, right? So please add scientific references that document the positive effects of non-lethal versus lethal measures. And now it's going to help me redraft. It'll probably pull up some pretty good research because it knows where I work, right? So applied so it's got, and these are actual links, right?
This is phenomenal.
Right, it's got the Wood River Wolf Project, which of course is Suzanne Stone's very successful project. Right, it's showing the different tools and how they work. Right, and then it can draft a summary of these studies for inclusions in the email.
Wow.
So this gives you some idea of just and we are still just scratching the surface. And there's a lot of videos on YouTube about advanced prompt craft. And you can ask it to improve prompts. You can write a prompt and say, this is my best effort at a prompt. How can I improve it to get a better result? And it'll improve the prompt. It's a learning machine, right? Which is a little bit scary because it's so much faster than us. And it's very sophisticated. I'll give you one more example of just how crazy sophisticated it is. So somebody posted a picture on Facebook about something that they had in their family. It was a very strange artifact. It was this thing. So I uploaded it and I just said, can you help identify this? Here's what the person said about it. And it created a very detailed description of what it thinks it is based upon the picture and the description. And I sent that to the people on Facebook and they were like, oh my God, this helps us narrow it down so much. Right, just from a single.
It's incredible.
So, now, and I've kind of cruised, we could pause if people have some basic questions, because the next thing I want to do is actually just take you through how to create your own letter, like how to sign up for an LLM. We're going to choose a cause, and we're all going to kind of do this together so you can just see how it works in real time for yourself. But if we want to pause for a second, do some questions, I'm happy to do that, and then we can dive into the final real world example. And after that, maybe we can talk about wolves for a few minutes.
Cool. While we're waiting on questions come into chat, do you have a particular LLM that you prefer over others?
So I'm using ChatGPT just because it was the first one that was widely available, and I started using it. And the longer you use, I mean, you could see here, I have thousands. I mean, I don't use Google anymore. Google is in trouble. I mean, I have thousands and thousands of queries, right? And I mean, sometimes it's as simple as helping me shop for something or identify a small part. Other times it's validating. I'm using this to biohack. I'm an old retired pro athlete. I have a lot of injuries that are, problems now that I'm older. And so I'm doing a lot of like really advanced biohacking with supplements and peptides. And I took a picture of all the stuff I'm taking to help it refine. I created a persona. You're a world-class exercise physiologist with PhDs and blah, 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 blah. Here's my protocol. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And it helps me refine it. And for the first time in 2 years, I feel like I'm actually reversing some of the age-related damage to my joints as a result of what we're doing together.
Wow.
And no doctor could do this. No doctor in the world could take as much information as I have input into this machine and had it synthesize back to me real world usable stuff, including like a daily diary. It makes a grid for me. It's like, okay, here's everything you should take. Here's your checklist. So very powerful tools. I mean, and then, silly, I want to know how USDA Wildlife Services is funded. Right? I mean, it just gets me everything I need. Like you can win any argument.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. This is incredible. What a learning experience tonight.
I see something I don't know. I mean, it can write a business plan for me. It's a little scary as a person who made his living as a writer to see how well it writes. There are still some tells, like I can usually tell if something is completely written by AI. But AI can dramatically speed. Like for example, when I'm writing books now, I dictate everything. I use a transcription tool that just takes my recording, puts it in text, and then I work with AI to edit the text and get it into an output form. It takes what used to take a day down to 2 hours for a chapter in a book.
Wow. Anybody have any questions for Oliver?
I haven't seen anything come through the chat, but the chat is open. So drop your questions in. I'll keep my eye on it.
Okay. I'm screen sharing, so I don't see. All right. Well, if we don't have any
Well,
questions.
Shannon Spring raised her hand.
We're moving fast, so I got plenty of time to answer some questions. Yeah. And if you want to hold them to the end, we can do that too. But I am delighted to let you guys get caught up because I know this is stuff I've been working with for many years.
Hey, Shannon, can you put your question into chat?
Oh, what peptides am I taking for injuries? I'm using BPC 157 and TB 500. They call that the Wolverine combo. I'm injecting it, and I'm injecting it right subcutaneous, right near the injuries. And I think it's one of the most important things I've changed that's really helped. Like I have one knee that I've destroyed twice. I've never repaired it with surgery because I don't want a knee replacement. And for the first time in 2 years, I'm walking without pain. I pretty much have pain every step I take, and I get pulled around because I walk animals every night and they pull. And so I just tough it out. But all of a sudden I'm like, I do a hike and I'm like, oh my God, my knee didn't hurt. And I'm sort of incredulous. So and if you follow me on TikTok at Oliver the Wolf Guy, I'm actually going to be doing a series about biohacking for people that are curious.
Cool.
Let's
hey Karen, can you put your question in chat? Oh, there's Joel.
Oh, good, great question. Okay, so I don't know that these agencies are going to bother to be screening for AI use, but the more, if you tell, so that it's a really smart question, and you can tell a little bit about yourself. Say, give it some background. I'm an advocate. I live in Colorado. My case, it knows a lot about me because it's been working with me for years. It knows I'm the executive director of the Tahoe Wolf Center. It knows I have 5 ambassador wolves. It knows I wrote a book. It knows my family was in the cattle business. It knows where I live now. Like, it's got a history with me. And so every letter is really personalized. There's some words that are little, you can use an AI checker and then just change a few words. But AI tends to like, Shannon, let's do that in 1 sec here. It tends to like using M dash too much. So if you see a paragraph or a couple paragraphs with 6 M dashes, that's kind of you know what that is? That's the long hyphens. It also likes let's delve into. And I think that the programmers probably put those things in there on purpose. And so I even have a prompt that goes back and it looks for those things and removes them. But even when I tell it, it's funny. It's not like the 100 obedient servant. It'll sometimes do stuff you don't expect. And so you need to still be a parent a little bit. It's like a super smart, unruly child sometimes, and it'll give you weird stuff. So let's see here. Can we develop the argument and argue against it? Does it matter? Yes. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's just take take your comment here. I'm going to create a new chat. Let me move you over here so we can persist. I'm going to paste what you said. All right. So we'll just modify this so we're talking. Arguments. For the use of humane management of wolves and against it. Measure the quality of the arguments with pros and cons for each. Because I've developed some advanced personas here, please do this exercise, EXERC, both as a credentialed wildlife biologist and a layman, and present both. Okay. And by the way, if you're wondering what tool I'm using that's correcting what I'm typing, I use Grammarly. It just cleans stuff up really fast. It makes things clearer. I pay for it. There's a free version. It's another AI. It's basically an AI grammar checker. All right, so let's see what happens here. Right, so now it's giving us a perspective. Right, credentialed expert with training, right? And you can see misunderstood, long-term, not always politically valued, labor-intensive, right? And it cites science, right? And I know these studies because I've cited them myself, right? And then sometimes it's ineffective.
Good to know this stuff when you're dealing with people so you understand what arguments they're going to have for you and be prepared.
That's right. Present all the counter arguments and help me prepare. Right? And then they do the same thing as a layman perspective.
Nice. Wow.
Right? Ranchers deserve protection. I'd shoot a wolf too if it ain't my cow. Speaks to property rights. Right? And then it gives you a summary.
Wow.
And then it gives you takeaways. And then you can turn that into a document or a public letter, right? Like you want to write a letter to the editor of the newspaper. So let's say, turn this into a succinct SUCCINCT letter to the editor of the Colorado Sun?
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Sun in favor of non-lethal management. Boom. And it's going to probably do it, from my perspective, right? There you go.
Wow. Wow.
Right?
I'm going to
And,
say wow a lot.
I mean, so let's go through here and look and see this letter, and you can see that to me what the little things I was talking about, right? So it has, so the other thing you need to know is that because I've done so much work with it, it knows how I write, okay? So when I ask it to do something like this, it's drafting a letter where it has a huge body of my work to draw from. So it's trying to be me because that's what I've asked it to do. But even so, like you see what I was talking about, these M dashes, like right here, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of M dashes. And so what I would do before I sent this in is I'd go through here very quickly, 2 minutes, and I would get rid of some of those, right? I'd put, semicolons or commas, or maybe clarify some text a tiny bit, right?
Gotcha.
But I mean, to write a really good letter like this, maybe takes half an hour if you really thought it through in advance, but it took, 2 minutes less to write the prompt while everybody's watching, right? So you can see how you can suddenly become a very convincing, scientifically referenced expert that's very hard to refute very quickly. And it makes everything we do on behalf of wolves or grizzly bears or public lands more effective. And you should know that when things are like, there's hearings where we're providing testimony and opinion, but when there are hearings that are actually presenting policy, if you comment directly on that legislation and you reference the legislation and the science, that's a whole different level of comment, and they are forced to address those comments in any movement that legislation makes. So for example, in Tahoe, they were putting forth an entire forestry management plan. It was hundreds of pages. And this was before LLMs were out there, and I spent a month reading the plan and writing responses to sections of the plan with my concerns about the plan, requesting how they were going to address those things. And when you go look at that final plan that they implemented, all of my concerns are in an index, and biologists and ecologists had to go through and they had to address all of my scientifically validated concerns. And so the reason I mention this is because as this legislation gets crafted, for example, if you're in California and you're worried about a new management plan, they are going to present that plan, and you have an opportunity to make them refine the plan by leveraging, you can put the whole plan into GPT, right? You can copy and paste the whole dang thing in there because there's going to be a PDF. You can upload a PDF, you just hit plus, photos, documents, your drives, whatever, and say, here are the 10 things I'm worried about. Please comment on them using scientific references so that the agencies are forced to respond. Boom.
Wow. I wish that I had this when I was trying to argue against Montana's Fish and Wildlife. I did the same thing. I would go on Google and I pull down papers and pull out what I needed. It was a lot of work,
It's a
but this
lot of
would have
work.
been so much easier.
Yeah, it almost feels like cheating, but so did a calculator at one time.
Yeah,
Remember, like
yeah,
kids weren't
yep,
allowed to bring a calculator into the classroom, and now, it's just part of being in the classroom, right? You realize that
yep.
you're shortcutting things that a machine does better than you, and you're allowing your creativity to guide.
Mhm.
So yeah, you can. So if you want to edit the letter, you can either tell it to edit the letter for you, or you can just you can have it present it to you as a Word doc. So you can tell it an output, right? So please output this as a Word doc so I can edit. Sometimes when you ask it to generate a file, it takes a second, but here's a letter to the editor in Word, right? Click to download. Downloaded it. Let's see, put it in my downloads. Save. There you go. And now I could edit it, and you can see it doesn't like the Grammarly doesn't like these M dashes either. Right?
Nice.
I don't like the change, but there you go. And then you have a letter you could send off, and I can tell it, give me the email addresses. So do we want to do one together?
Yes, definitely.
So let's do that. This is that link I showed you, Olivia, earlier. So let me go to Chrome here. All right, so obviously it's HR 845 is the one that I was thinking about here. So in this case, we're going to go learn more. Hopefully this will work, right? So this is the sign-on letter, right? So this is a letter. They're asking you to sign on. So let me show you what I would do here is, right, we're urging our representative. It's going to help you figure out who your rep is. So the way I will do this myself, if I just want to be quick, I tend to go deeper because I feel like citing a bunch of science is really helpful. But I would copy all of this first. So control, copy, paste. I think we all know how to do that. I'm going to go back to my GPT, new chat. I'm going to say, please help me draft a letter. And I'm going to use a persona because using my book persona has all the biology stuff in it from Haber and whoever else I like. As a response to the text below. So that's a prompt, right? And you can write anything you want. You could say, as a wolf advocate who lives in blah, 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 I'd like to draft a response. And then it'll just output it as text I can copy, but if I wanted it to be a letter, I could say, please generate the response in a PDF or a Word doc or whatever, right? And I'm gonna paste exactly what we just copied, right? House of Representative, Bobert, Tiffany, strip wolves protections, right? In my case, I wanna add scientific references to my letter so they have to respond. Enter.
And I didn't know that when you put in scientific references.
It depends. Like they don't always, but they're supposed to take it at a different level when you reference stuff. So you can see that here, right? It knows who I am, conservationist, author, writing express my opposition, Pet and Livestock Protection Act, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's the references, right? And if I don't know if these are good links, I'll click a link just to validate it. Right, sometimes it has problems. See, like right now, there's a mistake with the link, right? So I'm going to say this is number 2 is a bad link. Please recheck and provide the correct. And it's going to say like, you're absolutely right. It's funny how it'll do that sometimes. But this is where there's, I see I've updated the reference. And we'll see if it got it right this time. I'll see, and it couldn't find a good link, so it changed it to something else. So that's and then it gives you pros and cons, leverages authority, might push back from entrenched opinions, right? And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this whole thing. Just copy it. Come on. All right. And now we're going to go back here to where we're going to formalize the letter, right? Oops, what did I do? I made that too big. There we go. All right. So we'll just fill it out. All right. My address, so that way it knows where I'm at. All right. Now it's letting me, it knows who my rep is. This guy's such a toad, by the way. Oh my God, is he a toad? Like, dear Mr. Toad, you're a toad. Right? But now I'm just going to go Control A and Control V, and it's put my whole thing. Now you'll see that it's got all these pluses, like that just shows how many different links it found. We can just get rid of that. Right, there's the rest of it. Do the same thing here. So I just clean it up a little bit because sometimes these things get a little bit corrupted when you
Copy and paste.
copy and paste into some other tool. Right, but now looks pretty clean. So it would have taken, I don't know, an hour to do a good job. And if you guys are working with me, you've done the same thing, right? You've gone to one of your models, whichever one you like, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. And now I've sent a personalized message that he has to acknowledge as an actual message, right? My prefix, it wants to know that I'm Mr. There you go. And as simple as that,
Wow.
you've generated a unique, well-written, scientifically referenced letter that will absolutely stand out from the crowd. And each of us can do that.
And it'll all be individualized.
And every single one would be different. It would be, if I do it again, yeah, so I'm just going back through the chat here, and I guess is it Corinne?
Karen.
Yeah.
Corinne.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that people talk out of both sides of their mouth, and that's especially true of politicians. But these letters go on the record, right? That's the other difference, is your letter is on the record now. Like, you submit it, it goes in, it's there, you can subpoena it later in court. You can request it in a public information request. And, if you find that legislator got 678 pro non-lethal and 36 lethal, and they still pushed for lethal, you can call them to the mat on it. You can say, I did a public records request. You received 674. Why aren't you representing your constituents? Who's paying you? I don't know if you guys can hear my wolves call out.
I heard the song in the background. Yep.
They're singing.
Sweet music.
Yes, Kylie is a toad. Unfortunately, I think that's not really fair to toads. Like, when people say, like, oh, so-and-so's a weasel, I'm like, but I really like weasels. Like, you have to think of a really, really, there just is no animal that's as bad as a politician. Like, I mean, I think politicians are their own unique. So that kind of wraps up all the stuff I have to show you. I mean, we can dig deeper on any topic. I can continue to generate examples. I'd love to answer more questions.
Anything else you guys would like to see? There we go.
We've got a good one from Jewel. For you, Oliver, on your journey of becoming a wolf conservationist, particularly how you were able to get involved with researching wolves specifically.
All right. Because I'm sitting at my desk, I don't know if this is gonna show the way I want it to. I'm gonna try. I don't know if this will do this.
Nope.
Nope.
Not seeing it.
Oh wait, here. You see this little book? It says A Wolf of My Own. It's a children's book. So my family was in the cattle business. We were the second largest ranching business in the state of Colorado from the early 1900s, like 1920, until the 80s. So I grew, they're all singing songs. And so we were not a touchy-feely family. My mom was pretty soft-hearted woman, but the rest of us, I mean, I tell people, when a steer had a name, that was the one that was going in the freezer. So we weren't, that's my culture. My family, on one side were ranchers and the other side were butchers, right? So we killed a lot of stuff. But my mom read, and so we weren't partial to wildlife. I mean, something in the way, just shoot it. My mom read me this book called A Wolf of My Own. It's about a little girl. It's out of print now, but I buy them all the time because whenever I see them, I give them to little kids because I thought it was such a transformational and such a beautiful book. It's about a little girl who gets a striped box with holes for her birthday. She imagines it's a wolf, it's a puppy. She has adventures with her puppy that are wolfy adventures. It's really cute. I was a very pragmatic child. My mother should never have read me this book. I was like, no, wolf, not puppy, wolf. But I was also one of these kids who just sort of understood that was very unusual. And it set me on this quest to understand the species. By the time I was about 8 or 9, I was very involved in, I came across a red fox in a trap when I was cross-country skiing alone. It was very upsetting to me. I loved foxes as well. The game warden came and just shot the fox, right? You can't release an animal from a trap, it's illegal. And it just, to this day, it haunts my dreams. I wrote this very poignant letter to the editor of the Rocky Mountain News, the Denver Post, that was well written because I was kind of a poetic little kid. And it got a lot of attention because it was begging the governor to ban trapping. And it started a fire. We were getting death threats. Like, trapping was a big thing in Colorado, and for a prominent ranching family's kid to come out against it was a big deal. Ultimately, it got discovered by, there's a guy named Cleveland Amory, who was a very famous advocate for wildlife. He's passed now, he was old even then, but wrote a book called Animals Nobody Loves, which had coyotes and mosquitoes. It was an amazing book. He found out about this letter, and he was introducing a book about foxes at the Natural History Museum in Denver. He invited me to be up on stage with him because the letter was so moving. I did. People in Colorado who were afraid that those subspecies of wolves native to North America, to the Rockies, were going to go extinct, were raising wolves in private all over the state. There was probably a dozen crazy old men raising wolves. They found out about me and reached out, and I made my poor mom drive me around to meet these guys. I now know she was taking me to meet my future self. So I cleaned up a lot of wolf poop for people who raised wolves appropriately. I mean, everything I learned early has informed how I do what I do now. I ultimately went to study carnivore biology in college, discovered that I wasn't a good fit for state agencies because I didn't want to kill the things I was interested in. Ultimately, had entrepreneurial success that allowed me to start my own nonprofit. I got my first pure wolf while I was in college because the state confiscated a wolf from somebody that was going to release it into Rocky Mountain National Park. They called my professor, and he was like, "Oh, I have this crazy student who lives way up in the woods and has the facility for it." And I've been living inside a wolf habitat ever since. And you can reach me, TahoeWolfCenter@gmail.com is a good email address. Just put something in the subject line. I'm on social media as @OliverTheWolfGuy, YouTube, TikTok. Those are where I'm most active. My book is The Wolf Lover's Guide to Raising Dogs, which takes all my 40 years of working with wolves and sort of directs it towards how you can make your dog love you more. And let's see here. Sherry, checking again if letters can be tracked, AI, and does it even matter? I think it's going to matter less and less. But once you copy and paste it, the only way that they'd be able to track it is if they looked for, put it through an AI checker, and it's going to give you a confidence. Like, it's going to say it's 80% confident that 70% of this letter was written by AI. But if you personalize the letter even a tiny bit, that confidence goes way down. And I really, really doubt that these people are going to go to those lengths, especially if they get a lot of letters.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Any more questions and we're recording this, so we'll end up posting it so people can go back and look at what we went over tonight. And then plus Oliver's offered to help if you have any questions.
And if you're an organization and you really want to take this to the next level, that would be more involved than something I could just do gratis. But I am happy to work with corporations, organizations, individuals at a very high level to develop extremely sophisticated ways of using AI for kind of anything. And I mean, you can kind of just hear, on my conversations, just how, like how deep I can go in various things. I mean, anything from how to, fix a leak in a roof to, optimizing social media.
Great. Any more questions for Oliver? Otherwise, we'll ask him to go out so we can see his wolves.
It's my pleasure, you guys. I'm really happy to share what I know about this, because I think that right now we need every trick in the book. We talked all about the future of Colorado wolves. Thanks, Sherry. I am deeply concerned about what's going on in Colorado. I think that they did. Listen, I think Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I'm connected to a bunch of those senior biologists, I think that they got handed a very difficult path. I think that they ran out of time to do things the way they really wanted to, because they had a hard time getting wolves, and they had a mandate to have them on the ground at a certain time. I think that because of the difficulty sourcing wolves from the best possible places, the Wyoming and Montana said, no, we're not giving you our wolves. We'd rather kill them. And it made it very difficult for them to get wolves that were not acclimated in any way to livestock. And so they were positioned for failure from the beginning. These ranchers that are so loud and recalcitrant and willing to be criminal are despicable. And the thing is that we weren't partial to wildlife, but we weren't going to go out and commit federal crimes to protect cattle that are going to be slaughtered anyway. I mean, for us, just to put in perspective, these guys have a couple hundred head of cattle, and almost all of them are on public land. We had 54,000 head, and we owned our land. So we were a very different scale of operation. I mean, these guys, I just laugh at what they do when they, we used to call those guys all hat, no buckle, which is a real insulting thing to say to a cowboy. It basically means you're all for show. And so, but these guys that, if you're in any of these Facebook groups, you're seeing, they're talking about poaching, in public. They're saying, why don't we just put out poison baits? They're saying, if you see something like 3,000 FPS, that's a muzzle velocity reference for a firearm, right? I mean, it's disgusting. You can, if you're in any of those groups and you see those things, take a screenshot, send it to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Operation Game Thief. They are aware, but the more that they get that stuff peppering them that way, I am sure that some of these cryptic losses, we already know they're poaching, right? They're openly advocating for poaching. And so the more that we keep a microscope on it, I'm kicked out of almost all those groups, for obvious reasons, I guess. But keep the pressure on, keep, as distasteful as it is, copy and paste, send that to Colorado, make your feelings known. Don't be shy to contact the commissioners, talk to them. Yes, and the same people are astroturf in California now, and California has been the best place in the United States to be a wolf for a while now. But there are people pushing very hard, and the ranchers in Colorado or California are even smaller. They're just pathetic. And, if they can't protect 2 dozen, 3 dozen head of cattle, then they're in the wrong business.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, that's been making a lot of headlines recently, unfortunately.
And a lot of it's bunk. this whole thing about wolves killing an elk on somebody's doorstep, those weren't wolf prints in the blood. They were dogs.
Yep.
And you've got these uninformed, uneducated, unqualified, deputized police or sheriff's officers making pronouncements that are, way above their pay grade. They're not biologists. They're not trained trackers. They haven't ever looked at the results of a potential depredation and been able to identify who killed what. It's ridiculous.
Just a little bit of a side story. I had a friend who would collar bears in Colorado, and so that he could track them. And when there was a bear that was, causing issues, and CPW wanted to find it to kill it, they wouldn't even contact him to say, was this located in that area? They just killed the first bear that they saw.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. I'll tell you, there was a very famous bear. So Tahoe has the densest black bear population in the world. And I'm on the board of an organization called the Bear League, and I'm sort of their coexistence specialist. Like if there's bears get under houses up here, there's a lot of vacation homes. Bears get under the house and they tear up the insulation and they make themselves cozy and they ruin the underside of the house. And then people show up at the house, they're like, there's noises under my house and I got no water, but there's water flowing out the back. And they call the Bear League and they send me out there and I go and I get the bears out from under the houses. And there was this bear called Hank the Tank. Hank was an incredibly fat bear. He was a bear that was used to breaking into houses and getting into trash, and so he was very fat. Very distinctive bear. It turned out Hank was actually Henrietta. It was a girl bear. But Hank had been implicated in like a dozen home break-ins, and California was going to kill Hank. And so I ended up getting hair samples, and I'm friendly with the bear biologists up here, and I said, listen, let's get some DNA. Like before you kill a bear, let's make sure you're going to kill the right bear, because otherwise you're not doing anything. And so yeah, there were like 4 home break-ins, and they were attributed to Hank. I got a hair from all of them. They tested the hair, and they're like, these are all different bears. I'm like, yeah, tell people to lock up their trash.
Exactly.
Ultimately, They captured we finally knew that it was Henrietta when we captured, and it doesn't work usually to relocate bears, but they caught Henrietta and they put Henrietta far away, and I don't believe Henrietta's been back to the basin, but that isn't. I like to think that Henrietta's living a good life somewhere far from Tahoe. I'm sure it may not be true, but
Well, hopefully. So,
hopefully, yeah.
yeah.
It's always a people problem. I mean, with live, listen, I've been feeding wolves for 40 years, and I will tell you that when we like to rotate protein, and when we want to rotate protein, if we go from beef to pork, and we make all of this very sophisticated raw diet. By the way, if you want to see us making wolf food, there's a whole bunch of live streams on my YouTube, how we do it, because we make like 400 pounds, me and my wife, so I live stream it, people watch. But when I go to switch just from like beef to pork, my animals look at what I just gave, and you guys know this too. You give them something weird, something different, and they sniff it, and they literally make a face like, I don't like it. And so we ordinarily, before we rotate proteins, we make them hungry for a couple days, so they're really, really hungry, and they're more inclined to switch. And the reason I mention that is because wolves really prefer elk and deer. That's what their brand, the wolves here, right? If you're a Arctic wolf, you prefer caribou and musk oxen. But the wolves here want to eat elk and deer. And if you put before them something unfamiliar, they don't just go, oh, I'm going to kill that. And the reason that wolves are starting to take livestock is because these producers leave dead animals on the landscape. The wolves start eating the carcasses because they do scavenge. And then their smart brain goes, oh, I know what that thing over there is that was big and scary before. It's this thing I'm eating. And it's kind of dumb and slow. And now you have a problem. And these guys are even creating boneyards in California. Oh no, it was Colorado like 2 years ago. This guy dragged all his dead animals off to one place and put game cameras. And then he's like, yeah, there's wolves eating all the, and now they're eating my calves. Yeah, you taught them that your calves were on the menu. And then they want us to shoot the wolves that they're bringing in because of their inappropriate. You think Henrietta's in Colorado? I don't think they can relocate a bear to another state. I think they tried to. The bears in Nevada get put back into the pine nuts, and then they're in a hunting zone. The bears in California, I'm not sure where they put them, but it has to stay in the state. But yeah, so that's the other thing is that carcass management, attractants are the number one. Depredation starts because they start eating something dead. Right? These guys don't manage their herds. They're not on top of it. They don't know for days that animals are missing. This guy that got $580,000 in compensation claims, wolves didn't kill $500,000 worth of his animals. He lost them. They might have been rustled. There's still cattle rustling happening all over the world. People steal livestock. It's preposterous. So, keep a lens on these guys. Write letters. Now you can write them fast. I can write half a dozen letters in an evening if I want to. Easy.
Nice. Hey,
Should I put
any
on
oth-
my shoes and go see some wolves real quick? Do we have
yeah, I think you should go outside and see the choir group. Yep.
a pair of shoes here? It's almost never that I have not my boots on to run out the door in a hurry, but my wife was cleaning the floor and I was like, maybe I'm gonna get in trouble if I track up the floor.
Smart man.
So let's see, let me think. I might wanna switch to my phone, so I'm
Oh, yeah, can you stop screen sharing?
oh yeah, I've been screen sharing for quite a minute here.
There we go.
Here we go. So we'll go out in my habitat real quick. It's still snooze o'clock here, but they'll probably come and maul me. They keep putting holes in my clothes. Everybody climbs up on me. All right, what did I do with my mobile device? Okay. So what I think I'm gonna do, if I can.
Yeah, while you're walking, Sharon Spring asked whether you can share a big success on using AI and then the advocacy of wolves.
Well, I think it's
For
early
example.
days. I wrote a lot of letters, individual letters to every commissioner that I leveraged AI, and I had several commissioners write me back and say that that they believe that science should lead our decision making, and that they were going to vote that the biologists make the calls on what to do with the wolves. And we saw in the meeting on the 7th that that's exactly what the commission voted to do, was let the biologists, the ranchers were pushing for lethal removal of the Copper Creek family. And so far they're not. We got to stay on them, but at least for the moment, we had a success. And I would say that the letter writing I did and others probably helped lead to that success, because those guys, responded. So I am going to hit this. I'm going to, let's see if I can just
And
join.
Bob Gregory said that Henrietta is at the Wild Animal Sanctuary in Colorado.
Oh, that's right. You're right. You are right. That's where Henrietta went. I forgot about that. I had forgotten about
Living out her life in luxury.
yeah, the Wild Animal Sanctuary is great. I knew that as a prior incarnation of a sanctuary called Prairie Wind. Why isn't this letting me jump on here? Let's see here.
Well, I'm going to stop the recording right now. Does anybody else have any more questions for Oliver? Or stop the recording?
I need to get a meeting ID here to get in on my phone. It's giving me a little trouble.
Oh, okay, I'm going to stop recording.
6.